A disability is something that has a major impact on your life.
Every disability is different.
And it's never the same thing for two people. I am blind in my right eye totally and partially sighted in my left eye.
I was 18 years old. We were traveling way too fast on a gravel road. Broke my neck, my back.
My Asperger's syndrome and my cerebral palsy.
I have anxiety and depression. People would have no idea just talking to me.
Being independent means different things to different people.
I want to live in my own house. I want to pay my own bills.
Live independently and not rely on other people.
When someone is not able to live as independently as they can, it does have a detrimental effect on people's physical and mental well-being.
It's no complicated thing. It's just that people with disabilities want to be included.
Plenty of people get stuck in ruts when they feel like they can't overcome something in their life. That's where Lyft comes in.
Living independently for today and tomorrow. Lyft. We help people of all ages and all types of disabilities find the resources or acquire the skills to live as independently as possible.
We serve the southeastern 18 counties here at the Billings office. We have a variety of things that we offer. We can help with grant funding for adaptive equipment.
Maybe a home modification so they're able to access their home. We help people to find that funding.
Helping people apply for Social Security benefits.
Medicaid, Medicare, housing.
They have a peer support group. Peer support, I think, is key.
Sharing life experiences is one of the most powerful things to help people who might be new to disability, who might be struggling with their disability.
Youth transitions is kids that are transitioning out of high school. They need to learn those adulting skills. It might be rent an apartment, learn how to grocery shop, budgeting.
Help someone advocate for themselves in a school or an employment setting. One of our biggest strengths is providing folks with information and referral. If we can't help you, we hope to know who can.
A lot of times we'll have a potential consumer call in and they think that they just have one need, and it turns out that we end up finding 3 or 4 things we can actually do for them.
You can just come in and say, hey, I feel like I have this going on. Can you help me? And we can, which is so cool to me. I love that.
Most of us on staff at Lyft have identified ourselves as having one or more disabilities. That is helpful in many cases.
It's easier to empathize with someone when you yourself have struggled with a disability.
This is what we specialize in. This is who we are, and this is what we do.
And it costs nothing to go to Lyft. It's a nonprofit organization and they're there to help.
Somebody that was a consumer that was working with Lyft was asked to do an art project. He visualized that the balloon helps to lift people up. And then it became the logo, and it's stuck.
There's been success on all kinds of levels.
It's really rewarding to have a consumer go, hey, I was able to do this by myself today.
We want people to live their best life as independent as possible.
Live as everyone else in society and live as a part of society, not apart from society.
Everybody needs help. Sometimes you just need a little more help, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay.
There's plenty of life to live still, and there's a way you can do it. Keep chipping away at it, little by little by little.
Knowledge is power. Let's share it, for crying out loud.
Send us an email, give us a call. We'll do our best to help.
We can definitely help figure out what your needs are and get started on that. We're one of many steps in the path to independence, and we're happy to be serving people here in the community.
Good day and welcome to Living Well in Montana. Living Well in Montana is a program of living independently for today and tomorrow, or LIFT, L-I-F-T-T as we like to call ourselves. And LIFT is a nonprofit center for independent living. We are a center for advocacy and resources for persons with disabilities across an 18-county region of southeastern and south central Montana. To learn more about LIFT, I encourage you to visit our website at lift.org and look in the near future for our new and improved mobile app. My name is Jed Barton, and I am a public relations specialist at LIFT. And today's topic, as you see on your screen there, is diversity and inclusion. And we're taping this on the 27th of June. And so we are coming to the end of the month of June, the end of what is known as Pride Month for the LGBTQ2 spirit community, and towards, in July, what is becoming known as Pride Month for the disability community, culminating in the anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act on the 26th of July. And LIFT will be holding a celebration at our office that day, and we invite everyone to attend. There's details on our website. So we're going to take advantage of that intersection of June and July, and the intersection of LGBTQ and disability pride, and talk today with our executive director, Carlos Ramallo, and his partner and a LIFT volunteer, Jordan Ferrero. Jordan and Carlos, welcome.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. You too.
Why don't you start off and tell us a little bit about your backgrounds, how you came to be here in Billings, Montana, that sort of thing?
Okay. Well, for myself, my background is social entrepreneurship, amongst working with diverse communities in different political parts of the spectrum. And I've come into Montana to join my partner in his venture and support him in whatever way I can at LIFT.
And I used to be an anti-corruption international attorney, and my practice was based in Brazil, in Europe, and I moved to the United States permanently in 2006, established residence here in Billings, and have been here for almost 20 years now.
Okay, and in addition to your work with LIFT, you both have disabilities yourself, correct?
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah. Jordan?
So my disability is I am, well, originally back in the heyday of the beginnings of understanding in later 20th century diabetes. I was diagnosed as a child as having a type 1 diabetic syndrome. In my recent adulthood, I found out that indeed is now something called MODY, which is adult onset diabetes that you achieve at a very early age in life, roughly around 7 or 8, and have the same conditions that somebody who has type 2 diabetes when they reach their 60s, 70s, or later on in life at some particular time, and is treated a little bit differently than how I was treated when I was a kid.
And I have multiple disabilities. I have also diabetes, but it's type 2 diabetes. I am insulin dependent. I have to take several shots of insulin a day. I deal with dual sensory loss, both vision and hearing. According to my physicians, there will be a moment in my life when I will completely have lost both vision and hearing. Right now, I hear pieces and beats and am able to read using assistive technology and even drive. Other than that, because of the two first disabilities, I also deal with severe vertigo and I have to take preventive medication to avoid having a episode.
Okay. Thank you. As I intimated in the introduction, you are together as partners. So not only are you members of the disabled community, you are members of another, we like to call the disabled community the largest, most inclusive minority group that anyone can become a member at any time. But you're members of another large group within our society, the LGBTQ Two-Spirit community. Could you talk a little about how those identities either, mesh or don't, or what it's, how you deal with what could be seen as a negative or a positive, depending how you look at it?
Well, the first thing that I think is important to bring up is the fact that I think that the intersection is important, but in both communities, we're undergoing a resurgence of re-identifying what it means to be each. For example, in the disabled community, there's an empowerment factor that's happening now, where the word disabled itself always brought up negative connotations, and is now being empowered to allow people to think positively about themselves, and as a result of it, present a completely new spectrum of how to approach life. The same is true specifically of the LGBTQ two-spirited community, which has evolved tremendously since Stonewall in the 60s, and has occasional setbacks here and there, but is still progressively and positively moving towards a positive identification of each. From my own personal perspective, in addition to those two communities, I belong to another community, being Jewish, and as a result of that, would have faced yet another issue that would be stigmatized, called anti-Semitism, unfortunately very much present. But when people ask me about, having to be under the gun for all three, and seeing that as a negative, my answer is always thrice blessed. Carlos?
Well, it's I love your metaphor about the intersection of the Pride Month and the Accessibility Month, June and July. And I think that is a true reflection of what happens in our lives. Each individual indeed has many identities. And I think as we grow older with maturity, all those identities merge and become only one, and it's becomes part of your inner being, and you gain independence, and you start living despite of what others will think of you. For example, in the first 2 years of my job at Lyft as executive director, I was a very private person. I didn't talk to anybody about any aspect of my private life, fearing rejection, discrimination within the disabled community because of my sexual orientation. Things changed when we hired a couple. He was our outreach coordinator. She became our independent living specialist, and they have a son who is a member of the LGBT community, married, very successful. And for reasons that I don't know, they disclosed that during the job interview, and inspired me to come out to them, coming out as a gay man and executive director of Lyft. And they gave me freedom to come out to all the team members at Lyft and the disability community we serve. And the rest of Montana, and then bring Jordan into Lyft. I remember the first Christmas these two employees were working at Lyft. They promoted a Christmas party at Lyft and invited the team members to bring their spouses. And that was the first time that I brought Jordan to Lyft. To my well-being and contentment, Lyft welcomed Jordan, embraced him, made him feel comfortable, and I've never experienced any type of rejection or discrimination for being gay and for being disabled and the executive director at Lyft. One of my fears was that out of ignorance, one or more individuals would even verbalize their negative feelings against anyone who is part of the LGBT community. There was one person who was an independent contractor who does not provide services to Lyft anymore. And I suspect he knew about my sexual orientation. And he came into my office and we were discussing a project he was working on. And out of the blue, in the middle of the conversation, he just told me that gays and lesbians should all be shot dead. That was very shocking to me, a very rude comment, and he finished that project, and later we decided that his worldview was not in harmony with Lyft's culture, because as you know, at Lyft we have a diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility statement that prevents anyone from discriminating against consumers or any member of the public for any reason, including sexuality.
Right. And you mentioned the potential for barriers, and that they were lower at Lyft than you thought they might be. But have you met barriers in your life as a person with a disability or your other identities, and how have you overcome them? I mean,
Well, I became disabled here after I moved permanently to the United States. The diabetes, the dual sensory loss, the obesity, all those things happen here because I started to grow old here. And as you know, as we age, then we start experiencing limitations. We start experiencing and dealing with situations that limit your ability to do some things and even work. I would say that the most difficult type of discrimination I have experienced as a disabled person was finding suitable work. Because as an attorney, being deaf, I could not enter a court of law. I needed assistive technology to communicate with the judge, the prosecutor, the jury, or even in a consulting business, assistive technology to communicate with individuals. I pressured and moved forward trying to fit in the professional realm and got involved with the disability community through the statewide Independent Living Council. And that's when I found out that Lyft was looking for an executive director, and I thought my professional background had a lot to offer to Lyft. I applied for the job and ended up being hired, and I am grateful for the opportunity because it opened many doors for me professionally to work on behalf of the public that we serve. Now, I would say discrimination for being a gay man. I suffered discrimination of all types since I was a child, bullying at school, rejection at church. I happened to be a pastor as well, and I remember being a pastor of several churches that were very conservative, narrow-minded. They considered me to be a good pastor until they found out that I was gay. And then after that, you are the worst professional, the worst person, and they needed to replace you. I, like Jordan said, I think we made a lot of progress imposing ourselves, standing up with dignity and pride, and recruiting support in society in several areas, including the church.
You know, we talk about things like diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility in statements, but you know, what's on paper and what's in reality can be out of balance occasionally. And again, I realize that this is a question that is individualized for everyone, but what are some of the, in broad strokes, how do we make, you know, we do a pretty good job at LIFT with the disability, obviously. You know, if we need to, you know, get somebody a piece of assistive technology, or we need to make sure that, you know, there's a clear path for them to move in the office, or if, you know, we've even, you know, changed offices at times and widened doors and stuff for people to welcome people into our team. The same question, sort of, how do we welcome, you know, in this case,
the LGBTQ
the
community.
Yeah.
Well, I would say that the disability inclusion, equity, and accessibility statement is a type of constitution or declaration of rights at LIFT. Rights and obligations. Rights for the members of the LGBTQ community. They can come to LIFT for services if they find themselves at the intersection of being members of the LGBTQ community and disabled, and they need services. Knowing that LIFT has the DA in place, they can be assured that LIFT is a safe place. Because as I said before, the diversity and inclusion statement forbids any of us at LIFT from expressing any sort of a prejudice and discrimination against anyone. Not only based on sexuality, but race, color, ethnicity, nationality, immigration status, you name it. Discrimination is something that we do not allow to happen at LIFT. We identify ourselves as a safe place for members of any minority that are in need of independent living services.
Okay.
I think there's several points that I'm hearing him make that I am in total agreement with, and then we can take it into the general sphere of the public. Though we practice this at LIFT to the nth degree, it's the taking of the mystique of both of those titles out and making it as everyday as humanly possible, so that no matter who you are, be it disabled or a member of the LGBTQ2 spirited, that you do not feel that the environment itself is specializing you in any way, but rather including you in all ways as part of an everyday normalcy that occurs in the process. To kick back to your prior statement, in my own life, as you know, what I felt as I was, from the gay perspective, coming out and being in society at that point, I think that it has to do with generational acceptance. I think that people of the boomers and the greatest generation had a much more difficult role to go, and has set the bar for so many of the younger generations to be able to come through and do it. The kind of discrimination that those people experienced and those people broke the molds to be able to do in terms of general employment, in terms of government acceptance, in terms of law, in terms of accuracy, in terms of all of those things have filtered down so that Generation Z and the millennials have a much easier time of personal acceptance, and so therefore it's neutralized in our society as much as humanly possible. And that's where I see the tremendous shift, the positive movement of the flow of acceptance of both camps of people, because it is no longer a stigmatized version to either be disabled because of the empowerment of positive empowerment of that, or for the LGBTQ two-spirited community to be able to identify as such because of the work that was done generationally before them, passed down, and is now part of the culture of an entire new younger group of people.
It is important also to say that one of the core services that LIFT provides is advocacy. And we are there to advocate on behalf of our disabled aging and disabled consumers who are also members of any minority in the communities. And we will stand with them and walk with them and promote individual and system change as much as we can.
I think that's a pretty good place to end it. Carlos and Jordan, thank you very much. Again, this has been Living Well in Montana, a program of LIFT, Living Independently for Today and Tomorrow. To learn more about our services for the disabled community in southeastern and south central Montana, I encourage you to visit our website or give us a call. Our office in Billings can be reached at 406-259-5181, and our office in Glendive can be reached at 406-948-8500. Thank you and good day.